is your money in its feelings? This week we're talking about money is emotional.
Now, welcome back to the Business Talk Library on RETV. And today we're talking about a very interesting topic, and that is money is emotional, or as some people may say it is,
your money's in its feelings.
There you go. There you go. So let's jump into that topic. Now, first thing is, when you hear money is emotional, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Money impacts the way people feel. When people are broke, they're sad. When people got money, they're happy. I see all those memes on Instagram when people talk about how, when the money hits their account, during payday, how they feel. And then when they look at the bills, like the bills versus bank account. I mean, there's all sorts of memes on social media. I'm just glad we've been delivered from that phase of paycheck to paycheck. Thank you, Jesus, for that. But I deviate. Because let me tell you, when you check the height, when they talk about the height of your bank account and the height of your bills, and you compare it. I remember when I just graduated from college and I just moved to Chicago. Let me even scratch that. It wasn't Chicago. It was the suburbs of Chicago. Okay. Paying $900 a month for rent. My paycheck was like $1,400. I think it was like $1,200 per pay period. Does that sound right? Yeah, $1,200 per pay period, $2,400, $900 for rent, car payment of $500. Who does that? That's about $1,400. And then you had to pay. I was paying my tithe too on the gross, I think, or the net. I don't remember. But anyways, and then I still wanted to live my best life and go out to eat with my friends because our church was in the city of Chicago. And, I was doing the commute too into the city. That's about $200. And my car was just guzzling up that gas, about $200 for gas. So, by the time it all added up, my expenses were a little bit taller than my paycheck, and it was a very interesting period of my life, but one that I am grateful that we have since surpassed. But anyways, so again, money is emotional, and a lot of people are in that similar situation. You say it sounds interesting. It was very interesting. I had just left good old Fort Wayne, Indiana, and yeah, so it was definitely an experience. But carry on. I completely digress. Technically, this is related, but okay. So,
all right. Yeah. So the question I asked was, how do you feel what's the thing that comes to mind when I say,
I answered that initially.
Money is emotional. And I'll answer that question as well. So when I hear the term money is emotional, the first thing that came to mind, and this is a little biased because I'm the one that came up with the title, but the thing that came to mind is just like, how much your feelings get involved when it comes down to your money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in your personal life, even in your business, it's just like when you recognize that, hey, this is my money, or you see it as, hey, this is my money, you get a different perspective. For example, like one of the big ones is when it comes down to taxes. When people had a job and they got their check, they were happy about what the net that they got or whatever, and then when it came tax time, they were like, yeah, I need my refund. And then when they become a business owner and no one's taking, the money out of the check, it's like, now you got to be responsible enough to set that money aside and then actually pay the bill when it comes due. And what I've realized, a lot of people, when they get to tax time and then when it's time for them to write a check, and they're like, my gosh, like how much am I paying in taxes? It's like, oh, now that you see it as your money, there's a whole different emotional response.
Yeah, it's a little bit different when the whole 100% is coming to you and you have to give out 30. It's like, all right, okay, this is a little different.
Man, you must been living good.
First of all, I'm talking about business owners. Okay, fine. Yes. So 25 to 30. Okay, depending on your tax bracket.
25 to 30, man. My experience has been, I remember when I first got my first job right out of college. And that first year, now I'm an accountant, so it's probably why I paid a little bit more attention to it. And that first year when I did my tax return, I was looking at it and I'm like, my salary is like $46,000 a year. It's like, oh man, I'm living good. But then when I looked at, like, after all the taxes that I paid and stuff like that, I'm like, man, I only got to keep like 24,000 of it. And I'm like, what the heck? Like the government was taking like 50%. Like at that point, money got emotional for me because I'm I felt like the IRS was taking my money, not necessarily like, hey, this was money that belonged to them anyway. No, it's like, no, you're taking my money. And when I started realizing that, I started seeing like, you know what, I do have an emotional response when it comes down to looking at my money. I mean, because it's the same thing. Like if you're a business owner and let's say you have employees and you know what, when employees show up and let's say if you want to run a restaurant, employees are making food or whatever, they're not following the recipe. So they're spilling stuff, they're throwing stuff away. I've had plenty of conversations with our clients and they're looking at it because to them, every drop of whatever that hits the floor, like that's more money hitting the floor.
Exactly. It's money. You start to see the dollar bills when it's your business. You start to see every single expense. I mean, I think about it even with us, like with me, when I started making more money, when I was living in Chicago and I was making, I think it was like $48,000 a year. And I did my calculations, and the way my bank account was looking, there was not enough money. I had to make a very difficult decision, at least what I thought was difficult at the time, after looking forward to independence and having my own place to move in with roommates, right? And it's just when you start, like when people are like just swiping, like you're just like, okay, the money's looking a little bit different. But no, I fully agree. I think even as a business owner, when it's your money, like things that maybe when you were working in corporate, you were like, all right, we good. Like I'm just gonna order all this office supplies, put it on the card, taking, the salesperson taking potential clients out to lunch, put it on the corporate card. Now you're like, this is an investment. Like you looking sideways when someone's ordering the food. You're like, okay, like, is this really going to go anywhere? They're just ordering stuff. I mean, I think about it like that way. Even when people talk about, the comment of like, hey, when you go out, order like you're going to pay for it. Even on dates, like order like you're going to pay for it. And sometimes when people find out you're paying, it's like, all right, now I'm ordering the whole things that I wouldn't have ordered.
That's a really good topic. We should talk. And since we're on RATV, we should definitely talk about that. So
I never did that. I never did that.
Go out for dates.
I never did that. I never did that.
Let's say, now, I'm not saying that this is the way that it should be. I'm just saying, hey, from the way I grew up and the way that I handled relationship usually I was the one that paid when it came down to dating and relationships and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I'm all for people doing their thing or whatever. Exactly. But the way that it worked for me during the time that I was dating before getting married, you know what? I paid for stuff. And so I often ask the question, it's just like, in that context, is if a female was going out with a guy that was gonna pay, should she order like she was gonna pay for it, or should she be like, you know what, tab is not on me, it's on him. I'm gonna ball out, enjoy having a good meal.
Nah, order like you're gonna pay for it. Order like you're gonna pay for it, unless he explicitly tells you. You can order anything you want on this menu. Like, you know what, babe, I want to treat you today. Now, if he's lying, that's on him. Okay. If he doesn't have the financial stability to cover the tab, that's a completely different story. But if you're telling me explicitly, like, hey, Lola, you can have anything you want. Is it T.I.? You can have whatever you like. That's T.I. If he tells you can have whatever you like, you better order whatever you like. Okay. But if it's a situation where he's taking you on a date and he's like, all right, like I'm paying for you, for me, the Nigerian in me, I just respect myself. Just respect yourself. Order, because you don't know. His card might get declined. He might not have enough money. And then we're stuck there both washing dishes. Let me tell you, the way that I was raised, embarrassment is nothing I ever want. Okay. That was the thing my mom always said, like, never let anybody embarrass you. I'm like, I don't want anybody to embarrass me. I'm going to have my paycheck here. I'm going to have my money ready or whatever. If he can't pay, I'm going to cover for it. So to answer your question, I would say order like you are the one who's going to pay for it. So
in that case, let's say if you went out back before you and I got married, if you were out on a date with someone and they couldn't pay for the whole bill, would you cover the whole bill, or would you just be like, hey, here's my portion?
I would cover the whole bill.
Okay.
I would cover the whole bill. Okay. And then I probably won't see him again. Let me tell you why. 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 There is nothing for me more annoying than somebody that is stunting and you don't have the money. If you don't have the money, just say you don't have the money. Like for me, that was the thing. And thankfully, I never dated any guys that were like this. But I'm like,
sure?
I probably did. I probably did. I probably did. I probably did. But I'm just saying, like, the whole concept of like, if you don't have the money, just be transparent with me. I would much rather that that's the case than you pretending and making it seem like, oh baby, order anything you want, anything on the menu, I will pay for you anything. And then when the bill comes, you're looking sideways, calculating. I remember, oh my gosh, speaking of money is emotional, I'm gonna deviate a little bit. I remember, and my friends and I were just talking about this the other day when I was in Houston, and I'm not gonna name names, but we had gone out for one of my very good friends' birthday. She was turning 30. And we had gone out for her birthday, and it was girls, we had all gone out or whatever. All of us were like, okay, we're gonna order drinks. And we're like, hey, it's her birthday, so we'll all split the check, just put it down the middle. A particular individual at the table then decides, she's like, no, I didn't order a drink. I'm not doing this. She pulls out, she's asked the waiter, because this was a restaurant that did not split the bill. Like they didn't split the bill. There's about the entire bill. You guys figure it out. She's like, she pulls out the receipt and she starts calculating to the cent. She's like, well, I got this little like breadstick. I got water. I got this little like appetizer, and literally brings out a calculator and starts calculating the bill.
Wow.
And I was just like, look, this is the money is emotional part for me, because I'm like, I have come too far in life. Okay. From my college days to be having to divide the bill and be calculating. Like, you do that when you're in college and you barely have enough money. I'm like, these are all working women, working individuals. You are, well, for some of us, I thought most of us were comfortable. And it's like, you should be able to pay this bill. You should be able to pay the bill. And no, cheap as ever. But I digress. All that to say, again, emotions get involved. I was upset. Well, I wasn't upset. I was annoyed. I was just like, now everyone's like, oh, Lola, you're the accountant. So Lola, tell us how much add this plus this. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like, no one has time for this. The waitress is over there trying to get paid. We're trying to divide my friend's bill or whatever, how much we're going to cover for her. She's like, oh, add, 25% of her portion of her food to my bill. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I think I said something like, I'll just pay for her. I'll just pay for my friend and let's just move on. But no, when it comes to spending money and when it comes to how people react, when it comes to spending money, it definitely is emotional, which is why I recommend every single person, your goal, personally for me, and some people may or may not agree with me, but my goal is always to be in a position where I can remove, or maybe let's say it this way, where I'm not driven, where I'm not having to make the less advantageous situation or decision because the money is involved. I don't know if that makes sense, to where you can make the best decision for your business without it being an issue or being, saying, oh my gosh, like I can't make the best decision because I can't afford it. And for me, I think that just puts you personally, relationally, like whatever it is, like in that, for example, in the example of eating out, like you knew you were taking this person out on a date. You knew you were going out to eat.
But
like,
you didn't know that they were going to order the steak and the shrimp.
But you told them, baby, go ahead and order whatever you want. What did you expect when you said that?
I mean, you budgeted for the chicken,
well,
not the steak.
Then you should have told them, babe, you can order the steak. Or you can order the chicken if you want the chicken. Like, for me, I'm just like, look. And again, maybe it's the accountant in me. Look at your money. Look at how long is your money. Don't be trying to stretch your activities above your money. How long is your money based on how much you make? And then calculate like, all right, what can we do within these parameters? And if you can't, like, don't be talking about, hey, order anything you want, trying to stunt, and you only have chicken money. You know what I'm saying?
I don't have an argument with you on that one. I mean, I think it's fair, but I think, as you said, it goes back to the point, like, money is emotional. I mean, even with the example of like all the the arguments people got at the table about where I spent this, I spent this. And it's like all of this is all because of, you know, the emotions people attach to money.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being that we are the Business Talk Library, I think, you know, although, you know, it was my fault on the tangent, but I think it's very relevant.
I think it was a good tangent.
But I do think the piece that I think really relates to business owners, it's a couple of things. Because one of the things you said about like, hey, rather than be honest, one of the things that I don't think a lot of business owners are, or they aren't honest with the employees or the people who are a part of their business, to where, you know, they may get upset if their people are spending money or wasting money. And one of the things that I tell a lot of business owners is like, you need to either set a budget for your operations with your team and actually let your team know what that budget is for the business.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we only budget to spend X amount on these items or X amount on these supplies. And it's like keeping your team informed, because if the people working in your business, if they know the parameters, typically, if you got good people, they're going to stay within those parameters.
Right.
Now, if you got somebody in your business that's working in your company and they don't care, they're just spending money because it ain't theirs, you might need to fire that person.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think being very clear about what the goals are removes the emotion. It may not completely remove it, but it minimizes the likelihood of you being in your feelings when it comes to money decision that's being made. For example, like you said, setting clear goals on the operational side. How much money are you spending? What's the limit? And then hold your operations manager or your employees set target. Like, this is where we need to be. And that's why it's so important as finance people, we go back to it. You need to know your numbers, because if you don't know how much you spent month to date, you don't know, you just see it at the end of the month, then you're upset, you're pissed. You're like, oh my gosh, they spent all this money on ketchup. I done told them 500 times, they don't need to be buying ketchup from this. Like, I mean, then it becomes a whole thing. Now you're upset. But the worst part about that is you can't go back and fix it. It's done. So I think for me, it's just like you said, if you're clear about the goals, for me, I think it minimizes the confusion. Like, even in the situation that I gave you where we went out to eat, I think if we had already established prior to getting to dinner and just said, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. All of us are going to be splitting this person's bill in half. We're just going to divide it across the board. Are you in agreement? And for the people that weren't in agreement, hey, put them on a separate tab or whatever. But I think it just reduces the likelihood of the emotions, the negative emotions when it comes to spending money, because at the end of the day, you feel like as a business owner, this is your business. You've worked hard for that business, and you get upset when you feel like, man, like the money's just disappearing into thin air a lot of times. So I just think the clearer you are, like, the better it is. And then the better it is, not just for you, but for your team as well. Yeah. Because you guys are all working towards the same goals. And if you're just saying, hey, like, this is our target, this is where we are, this is what we've spent so far, like, this is what the money is looking like, I think it will help hold people accountable, because then they can't say, I didn't know. Like, we all knew, we're all on the same page, and we're all working towards the same goal on how we spend our money. Yeah.
No, I think that, it makes it very clear to me. Like, I compare when we've gone out of the US and when we've gone shopping. Like, the process of shopping outside the US, to me, it's like emotions on steroids. Because I mean, when you get into countries where you go to the market and everything is a negotiation, it is so emotional. Like, people literally get upset about it. Whereas if you go shopping typically here in the US, the price is what the price is. Like, you don't go into Walmart and be like, well, nah, I think this should be, it should be 10 cents. No, it's like, whatever the price is, like, when the expectation is clear, like, it lowers the emotional energy, because the expectation is clear, as opposed to like where you're dealing with this kind of a vague situation. Like, when the situation is vague, some people feel like they're getting shortchanged, and some people feel like they're getting taken advantage of. And it's just like, sometimes you have some person who's very excited about it because they feel like they got over on other people. And it's just like, the more you start to make it, more, I guess you say, upfront and more well-known, the better. Now, the last part that I wanted to talk about when it comes down to money being emotional, I think, for business owners, which is a very, very big one that a lot of business owners forget, is that money is emotional for your customers. So when your customers are coming to buy your product,
Oh yeah.
it's just like there's a lot of emotion that they have connected to that money. So if your product or your service does not live up to their expectation, like that's where you see these people who go online and go on a rant in these bad reviews. It's because like they literally gave up time in their life that they took to earn that money. They came and they gave you the money and they felt like they got disrespected to where you'll see all of those negative emotions come out in that review and you read it and you like, wow, that person went in on me.
Yeah, you're like, ooh, it wasn't that serious. Like, you're talking about their mom, like you're talking about the fact that they never should have been in business. Like, it's like all they did was put the wrong color on your strawberry.
But I do think, you know, in some respects, I think when a business owner disrespects the fact that, hey, you know what, it's my job to give you value for the money. Like if you come and you pay me for a service, it's my job to make sure you get equivalent or greater value. Actually, my goal is to give you more value. So when you look and say, hey, yes, I paid Terrell this, but what I get in return is actually worth more.
I agree with you. No, I agree with that. And I think also in situations like that, there's an expectation, right? The menu is what the menu is. This is what the menu says that I get. The menu says that the food is tasty and delicious. In this case, the food was crappy. Like, so I can understand in that situation, the whole point of setting expectations on the menu, setting expectations on the prices is so your customers know what they're getting when they come into the store. And if they're not getting that, then of course they have the right to be upset because it's like Terrell said, like you put your money into it, like your hard-earned money, I've taken it and I've spent it in places. And I think about it even like when we go out, and this was an example I used on another video. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you have the worst server, you will be I'll be honest, when it comes to paying, I feel some type of way. Or when the food is not even good and you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to pay for this food. It reminds me of, there was a restaurant we went to in New Orleans and I was not impressed with the food. You liked yours. I wasn't impressed with the food. And when the time came to pay, I mean, the server was good. She was nice, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's different. Paying for good food when it exceeds your expectations, like this is what the menu said, when it's overwhelmingly great and amazing, is very different from paying for food when it's not that good.
No,
true. And so it's just like the question that I would ask, and I recommend to business owners is like, what emotion are you trying to trigger on your customer's end? Like, are you trying to trigger a positive emotion to where, like you said, you're trying to exceed their expectations to where then it triggers a positive emotion? Not only that, but it also makes them want to come back because they can associate a great experience with that food or whatever it is that you sell, even if it's the user experience on the website or their interaction with you, like when they meet you at their store or your store or whatever it is. Or do they have a negative experience and now they never want to come back? And people take their time to write on Yelp or write on Google reviews like, I'm never coming back here. The place is horrible. Servers are horrible. Food is bad. And they took their time, and you can just see it's all tied back to people's emotions. So
no, I think that's a good point, because one of the things that I try to explain this to people, and I know this gets a little bit into psychology, but psychology is a very big part of business, and it's just a very big part of life. It's just, I tell people is, think about the emotion that people are going to have when they receive your service or your product. And then think about the emotion that they have in giving money away. And ask yourself, is the emotion that they're going to experience after they get your product, is that one higher than the emotion that of them giving their money away? Because if they feel really, really good about what they got, then they will justify to themselves, hey, I'll do business with you again. But if the emotion that they feel after they receive your product or your service is really low, they're gonna tell themselves, I'm not giving, it was too painful for me to give this person my money to have this low of an experience.
I fully agree. And I think that's why it's always easy for people to justify when they buy things that are expensive and they say, you know what, it was expensive. People always start with, it was expensive, but it was good quality, or it was expensive, but the experience was great, or this was like the most expensive steak I've ever purchased, but it was amazing. You know what I mean? There's always the pain of spending the money, but then there's the offset of, you know what? This was worth it. But then when things aren't great, people always start with what? I paid so much money and it was so horrible. Like it's always the pain is always addressed up front. I paid so much money, and then the result, like, did it exceed it or was it worse? Like, oh my gosh, and it was so bad. Like, you always have that feedback. So I think definitely when we talk about just money and spending money, we go back to the concept of, is your money in its feelings? So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the RATV.
If you'd like to see more of the Business Talk Library, be sure to watch us every week on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m.
Hey, it's your girl, Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Right here on RATV, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Tune in to Millionaire Man Cave, only on Relationship Entertainment Television, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
This is Tyron
and Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune into the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be blessed and be great.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on
and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week, because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demetra Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On?